Hello, everyone. Extremely sorry about being late. Obviously now 10:03, 57 minutes towards the deadline, and thank you guys so much for joining me on the sort of deadline stream over here. Unfortunately, obviously, I haven't been sleeping too well just because of work, so yeah, I needed a little bit of time to readjust for the stream, but here we are, of course. And thank you guys. So appreciative that you guys are here on the deadline, and looking forward to a good game week, hopefully, once again. Just starting with the top of the chat, Mukriadi says, "What do you think my triple captain is 16?" Why are you triple captaining? I mean, obviously I would go with Holland, but I'd be interested to know who you've gone for. Um, can't imagine. Maybe you're punting on a United player? I don't know. Dawn says, "Should I do Colwell or Pedro Porro in for cash?" Look, personally, I would go for Pedro Porro because this fixture isn't very good for Chelsea, right? Everton away. At least with Pedro Porro, I can guarantee that he's one of the most attacking fullbacks in the league. So you've got a good opportunity there. Canon, thank you so much. I really appreciate those comments. I saw that before I actually jumped on the stream. Yeah, it's an honor, but I hope you have a lovely game week yourself and a week in general. Bar says, yo, nice to see you around. Luis Silva, nice to see you around as well. John Doe has a replacement for Mbumo. He's got Palmer and he's got Gordon. Personally, I think I might be looking towards punting at either Foden, right, just for the 2 game weeks, or long term, just thinking about going for Sterling. Because yes, of course, maybe Sterling can get suspended, but if you're really struggling to get some midfielder picks, go for that. Or if you really want to save up money, let's say you want to go cheaper into the midfield, I suppose what you could do is maybe look at one of those sort of more out of the edge punts like Lo Celso or McTominay and save yourself as much money as possible and therefore upgrade, into a Trent or into a Trippier in the future, up to you. Yep, where are you at, Fran? Here I am. Same with you, Mosen. Probably Chan or Bowen. Yeah, Bowen's actually a good pick as well. I do tend to think that Bowen is a little bit of an overperformer this season and at a little bit of an expensive price, right? So when I think about Bowen, I think he's actually top 3 in terms of overperformers of expected goals in the league, right? We've got Hwang, we have Bowen, we have Son. How much money are we spending on Hwang? Not too much. Son, at least I can say for the last however many years of his career, the only season where he wasn't an overperformer was last season. And maybe last season he could have still overperformed. I'm not sure about that, but he is, a legendary overperformer. Bowen last season highly underperformed, so I don't think I can say he's a consistent overperformer. His finishing is generally good, I would say, slightly above average. But do I think Bowen is, for example, that worth it? Considering West Ham's games aren't, exquisite, probably not. And then, yeah, in terms of Chan, you obviously bear the same risk with Sterling. But not only that, you are sort of forced to transfer him out anyways because of the Asian Cup. Start to Chan versus Nottingham, or Watkins versus Arsenal, or Palmer versus Everton. Personally, I would definitely start Hwang in that situation. I would definitely start Saka, as you say. So it's between Watkins and, I suppose, Palmer for your situation. I would probably bench Palmer. Start 3 out of Maguire, Pinnock, Lascelles, Gabriel, Simicast. I would start Simicast, I would start Pinnock, I would start Maguire, and I would bench the other 2. K7, morning Fran, morning to you as well. Bench Nunez for Foden. I would like to start both of them if possible, honestly. If you're on a wild card, would you get Son plus Gordon or Bowen plus Sterling? Honestly, I'd probably go Bowen plus... I'd probably go Son plus Gordon. I just think you don't really want to bring in a player with 4 yellow cards, and what happens if that situation sort of goes poorly. But you might not need Son at all. Like, maybe you can save even more money and go for Trent instead on the wild card. Start Palmer, Solanke. Definitely start. I'd probably start Palmer, actually. Is Areola starting? I don't know, but I'm just punting on him starting, and then obviously I've got Dubravka coming in after that, anyways. Bench Gordon or Palmer? Personally, I would bench Gordon. Like to take my penalties in these instances. 100 of you guys in the chat as well. Thank you guys so much for joining. If you guys would like and subscribe, that would be absolutely lovely. Thank you guys so much for dropping the questions as well. Who would be a good keeper replacement for Areola on a free transfer? You already have Dubravka. Look, honestly, I think you want to save as much money as possible. So I'm thinking just go maybe Pickford. Because honestly, Everton look like a very good team. And I'm not surprised because obviously we started the season with Pickford. And he's actually done really well. And so is Everton. So even though the fixtures for Everton aren't really good, what I'm thinking is more so the case that, well, actually, when you look at a team like Everton, actually they're probably one of the few teams, sub 4.5 in terms of goalkeepers that are actually really, really good. So maybe you can go for Pickford if you really want to change Areola. Now, if you want to spend a bit more money, I think obviously Sanchez is better, just in terms of balancing the fixture run, spending a little bit more money on a keeper who maybe rotates a bit better with Areola as well. But those are my thoughts. If defense, should I sell Areola? Injured Mbumo and Tomiyasu. Personally, I would deal with Mbumo first because Mbumo seems to be more of longer term issue, and also obviously that's where most of your money is spent. So I would for example maybe fix Mbumo first, and then think about Areola or Tomiyasu after that. A hit for Areola might make sense just because if you don't have a starting keeper, I don't really mind taking a hit to get a starting keeper. But obviously, if you already have a keeper, you don't really necessarily need to replace Areola immediately. Other questions in chat. Start Gabriel or Colwell? I don't know. I'm in the same situation. I'd prefer if you didn't spam in chat as well. But I think the best situation, and I'm sorry I have to put you in timeout, is probably to play Gabriel. I think both Chelsea and Arsenal have terrible games. I'm expecting both teams to lose their clean sheet, and then I'm thinking about who actually has the higher attacking threat, and I think it would be Gabriel. Martin says he's got the same team but different bench. Foden or Gordon for Mbumo, 2 million in the bank. I would probably, if you have a different bench in the same team, I mean, I'd probably think about going Foden as a punt. I went for Gordon just because I don't have 2 free transfers, right? I don't have the luxury to suddenly go Foden, then suddenly go Douglas Luiz or something like that on Gameweek 18, so it's quite tough. Is it worth to risk the captain Salah over Haaland? I don't think so. I mean, it's a really good fixture for Haaland. So, yeah, not for me. Taking a hit for the first time this season is fine, JWavy. If you, as I said, if you don't have a starting keeper and you want to take a hit for Areola, guys, I think it's perfectly fine. You might not get those 4 points immediately, but you might get some points back, and then eventually it should pay off. Aran, thank you so much for the donation. You were asking play Gordon or Ferguson. Thanks for the videos. Honestly, I would still play Ferguson. I'm not sure if Ferguson starts. I think he will, personally, but it's so much more of a better fixture. It's Burnley at home versus Tottenham away. We know that this Newcastle team, first of all, they're on some serious legs, and they're also away from home. They're very, very good at home and away. There is something to be said about that. And in that situation, I would just play Ferguson for sure. For example, I'm not even, like, let's say if I was actually evaluating my team once again, maybe between Gordon and Archer, there's not too much between the two of them. Unfortunately, this is one of Archer's, last good home games before we can sort of take him out. Cash out for Colwell or James. Personally, I prefer Porro first. But if you really want to pick a Chelsea player, I would pick Colwell. Just because I really think Reece James is always a risk. I might go Reece James next week, but I just don't think, why am I going to take a risk on Reece James in a bad fixture, right? So I can't really look at it like that. I'm hearing people say Palace is weak, and that's fine. But are we suddenly saying that Luton away is still an easy fixture from an attacking point of view? I'm sorry. You can't even say that. Liverpool got 3 point something expected goals versus that team. Like, literally, look at the chances that Liverpool missed in that Luton game and tell me that was not hard for the attacking team there to get good chances versus Luton. And then look at Arsenal. I mean, they still scored 4 goals. They might have struggled versus 2 headers, but Haaland is a goal scorer. Arsenal scored 4 goals. Arsenal have struggled to score more than 2 goals this season versus a lot of teams. So why are you talking about offensive players as if, Luton being able to score makes a huge difference? I really don't think it's worth even looking at it like that. Appreciate that, Mosen. He says like the videos. One free transfer. You got both Eze and Mbumo. I'd probably go out of Mbumo first, right? Save yourself as much money as possible. Put as much money back into your team, and I would take that. And Kedia stopped starting, so I stopped playing. Is that true, Charlie? I'm really sorry to hear that. J-Wave, hope you're doing well. Is Son a sell? I don't think Son's a sell. I think Son... Look, I've seen Son with a couple of contact injuries. I watched him in some international break games. He was in tremendous pain in some games, and suddenly he was able to continue playing. I'm hoping that Son will play. I can't guarantee it, but I think if you've got Archer on the bench, try not to worry too much about Son. For example, Son, I think, is probably going to be back next week no matter what, right? Whereas with Mbumo, we know he's out for multiple weeks, so I would transfer out Mbumo still. The same feeling you have for Bowen, I have for Palmer. Yeah, but the difference, for example, with Palmer is, let's say, even if you don't rate Palmer on the pitch, he's still a penalty taker, right? Kyle Walker. I think Kyle Walker starts, but I'm not sure, right? Because I personally think that John Stones will probably get rested and rotated, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Pep will see it as an opportunity to play Stones twice and then actually rest him in the Champions League game and just prioritize on actually getting the strongest team possible. For the Premier League, so maybe Stones would play over Walker, because in theory, right, who could play would be Ake, Akanji, Diaz, and Stones, right? So that could obviously take Walker out of the lineup, but I think that's tough. Ram says you've recently subscribed after watching the latest video. Thank you so much, by the way. Worth listening to. Start Gordon or Trippier. So the interesting thing here is obviously Trippier has awful clean sheet odds, right? But obviously we know Newcastle as well, generally speaking, have struggled. I like to look at it as, you know, if there's anything that Spurs are probably better at, it's their offense. So I would probably start Gordon and bench Trippier in that situation. But it's up to you, because obviously Trippier is one of the key cogs in terms of Newcastle's attack. And his, for example, expected assists are very similar to, for example, to Gordon's expected goals. I'd still take that chance on maybe starting Gordon, though. Assuming that obviously the Spurs team can score, because obviously that would lead to, for example, negative points for Trippier, could even lead to Trippier maybe having to expunge a yellow card over himself. Would you sell Areola for Leno? I think it makes sense as well to go into Leno if you want to spend a bit more money. I think the issue with that, I mean, it depends, right? I personally think I would go Dubravka first. I know Dubravka doesn't have a good fixture, but you also have to think Dubravka is probably going to be kept by this Newcastle team up until at least minimum January, and it's not like he's played poorly so far. So based on what we can, for example, reasonably expect, I think Dubravka is good. Someone's asking in terms of my long-term transfer plans. My long-term transfer plans are to maybe think about Reece James on Gameweek 17. Otherwise, it's just spending money to go from Darwin to Watkins on Gameweek 18. So right now I've got 2.0 in the bank. So that gives me enough money to go from Darwin to Watkins in one move easily. But I also have the opportunity to go from Cash to James next week as well. Start Gordon or Sterling? I'd probably start Sterling. Any news on if Alisson starts? I think he probably won't be risked, but there is news, of course, that Alisson could easily play because he's been in training so far. One thing I'm going to quickly check is I'm going to have a look at for any sort of potential leaks possible, guys. Just give me one sec. So apparently one of the leaks that we've gotten is that Gordon, Isaac, Almiron, Bruno Guimaraes will probably start. Joe Linton as well. That's not very helpful, to be honest. I think no Diaby and Cash. I think that's what we expect as well. To be honest, yeah, no real team leaks, guys, unfortunately. Should I quickly check if we've got any Liverpool news from, someone like, for example, the Cop. Yeah, no news actually in terms of Liverpool leaks, unfortunately. So last week we obviously got a fake leak about Darwin. So let's not be too confident in terms of Liverpool leaks this week. Why Reece over Trippier? I can't afford Reece James plus Watkins. Or sorry, I can't afford the opposite. I can't afford Trippier plus Watkins. If I go Trippier, that's totally fine. But I would have to also go from, let's say, Pedro Porro to Trippier as well. I mean, Trippier is quite expensive, right? I think he's 7.1. According to your setup, you believe Arsenal has higher chance of keeping clean sheet compared to Chelsea with Colwill. No, actually, I think it's very similar. And very, very, look, I think it's a pure 50-50 in terms of Gabriel versus Saliba, Gabriel versus Colwill, these sorts of things. I just think that Gabriel has slightly higher goal threat. Is buying a Fulham defender a bad move? I don't think so. I think Robinson's quite interesting, even though he's on 4 yellow cards. I think he'll probably start most of these games. Just got McTominay in. Look, honestly, McTominay and Doucouré are those sort of box-to-box mints traditionally that this season are occupying very, very good roles. So it could be interesting. Is it worth using my free transfer from going Gabriel to Porro? I'd probably keep Gabriel because I think he's a long-term good pick. I'd probably try to transfer someone else to Porro if possible. Someone's asking Colwell or Lascelles. I'd probably pick Colwell. Because I think there's also a doubt with Lascelles, right? Lascelles, maybe he won't be risked, so to speak. This will be an also awful defensive week. Yeah, you and me both, my friend. San says, have 2 free transfers. Should I sell Areola and Bumo to Palmer, Dubravka, or make one transfer? I would actually do both transfers, right? Yeah, I would do both transfers. Unless you already have a starting goalkeeper, right? If, let's say you own Areola plus Raya, like, don't bother. If you own Areola plus Sanchez, don't bother. So yeah. Hey, Fran, do you know if Lascelles is playing? Absolutely not. I don't know if Lascelles is playing. Sorry about that. Raya or Leno? As a goalkeeper transfer in? I'd probably just say Leno. I mean, you're starting with a good fixture here. There are full guarantees on Leno. Raya, of course, there could be some uncertainties. I really don't think there's many situations where, of course, there's any concern at all that Raya loses his spot in the team, but it could happen. But very, very small chance. You're a Chelsea fan, but you would never back Colwell to... I mean, look, Chelsea versus Newcastle, Chelsea versus Man United. These are some of the worst defensive performances I've seen this season, and I've seen Sheffield United play a couple times. You're asking the question, why Areola over Dubravka? I think Areola has a better fixture, but I'm expecting Areola to be injured anyways, and if he's injured, I'll get Dubravka after that. Who should I replace Diaby with? Palmer, Gordon, these sorts of players. If you want to take some risks, I think Hwang is probably too risky, but I think Sterling or Foden are probably better punts. You can also go Bowen as well if you want sort of a safer but also slightly more expensive player. Ram is also a Chelsea fan too. Look, I think one thing to say about Chelsea is they've been surprisingly a very, very good attack, right? I don't think when we stepped into the season, we could have easily said, without Nkunku in the team, that Chelsea would be top 2 in terms of expected goals. Now, if you take away some of the penalties and we look at non-penalty expected goals, Chelsea is still quite high up there. But that's, a very interesting change in dynamic. So certainly something that's quite interesting. Cash or Taylor? I'd probably just play Taylor. Should I start Colwell or Gabriel? I would go Gabriel. You already have Zinchenko. Yeah, if you want a little bit of, for example, like let's say, if you want to be flexible, I would actually probably start Zinchenko as you have there and then go Colwell and then just have a little bit more. Because I understand what you're saying in these situations. You're asking about, for example, can I diversify my team? Usually, for example, if let's say Arsenal had a better fixture, I would just say go Gabriel plus Zinchenko. But because let's say Colwell and Gabriel is a 50-50, I don't mind, starting Colwell if you really want flexibility in terms of results. Why Gordon instead of Bowen? If I go Bowen, I don't have the flexibility to go Reece James next week versus Sheffield United at home. So yeah, I kind of wanted to leave a little bit of room for that. I also think that Bowen is a touch of an overperformer. So is Gordon, obviously, but just wanted to leave a little bit more room, a little bit more flexibility in the bank. If I went Bowen as well, I think that would have stopped me from going Darwin to Watkins in one move. So that's why I didn't go for Bowen. Hi, MJX. Preseason, I'd be really excited for Jackson, then whatever happened. Yeah, I think, look, I mean, when you watch players like Jackson and Mudryk, they probably need loans away, if we're being honest, or they should be, for example, taking in bench roles and improving as a player, as opposed to starting game to game. Bench Solanke or Gordon. I probably would actually start Solanke in that situation. I like to start my penalty takers here if the conundrum's pretty close. Elias says, how come I've started Gabriel over Colwell? As I said, I think it's a 50-50. I've just decided that I think both people will probably, more than likely lose their clean sheets. So why not trust in the player who's a little bit more attacking, Gabriel, in terms of set piece chances, etc. Start both Trippier and Porro. I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, Trippier's still a good pick, regardless of the game week, and Porro, he's a very, very good attacker as well. So why not? Son to Saka, considering the injury. I think that's sensible. It's not great because actually you're going into Saka versus Aston Villa at home. Personally, I would actually I would actually wait 1 week to do that move. I don't think it's worth going Saka versus Aston Villa at home. And sorry, that's Aston Villa away, obviously, in the context of Saka and Aston Villa playing at home themselves. Hwang or Kudus. I think Kudus is nicer in the sense that there's less risk, right? If you go Kudus, it's good because he doesn't have 4 yellow cards and he also doesn't have Asian Cup. How much money do you have in the bank? I've got 2.0 million in the bank. -4 play Archer. I think play Archer, guys. Yeah, one thing to mention as well is if you guys do have Archer on your teams, this is a good time to play Archer as well. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Palmer or Alvarez? In terms of starting, I would definitely start Alvarez first. Only reason I'm saying Son to Saka now is a chance of Son not playing at all. I mean, yeah, but the price drop shouldn't really factor into your decisions, right? I mean, we're trying to play for points here, and Saka versus Aston Villa is a pretty bad game on paper. Buy Sterling or Palmer? I've got lots in the bank. I'd probably still go Palmer, actually. I think Palmer, first of all, there's no issues, right? No risks. So I would go Palmer. Start Zinchenko, Udogie, or Dalot. I would start Dalot for sure. It's Bournemouth at home. I think he probably still plays. Hwang or Gordon for 2 game weeks? I think Hwang is better for 2 game weeks, right? Because it's just Nottingham Forest at home and then another decent game. Whereas with Gordon, obviously, it's a pretty terrible Tottenham away game and then a good game as well on the flip side of that. You're not sure you want... Yeah, but I mean, the risk of Son losing out is suddenly that you have Saka versus Aston Villa, which is not great, in my opinion. And Son's only going to miss out, provisionally 1 game. I don't think it seems to be some sort of long-term injury. Otherwise, we would have already known about it. So the way I see it is you're sort of looking at Son versus Saka, comparing him week on week. And not to mention that also within this 3 game week window that Saka has to play Liverpool eventually as well. So I personally do still think that Saka is a better asset than... Son is a better asset than Saka. And the fixtures actually heading towards Asian Cup, I still think are better for Son. Hey, Fran, Mitchell to Porro for -4, but benching Solanke. Look, I would probably just play Solanke in that situation. Mitchell to Porro is definitely a nice move, in isolation, but for a -4, probably not. Foden is definitely high risk, high reward. I 100% agree with you. The reason why I haven't picked up Foden, as I said, is if you go for Foden, personally, I think you're forced to make another move on Gameweek 18, right? Because suddenly Haaland's going to be on my bench. I don't have a strong bench on that week, right, in this team structure with the Haaland plus Salah setup. And so what I would need to do, for example, is to get out of that. So to get out of that adequately, I would probably have to transfer Foden out to someone like Douglas Luiz, right, save myself a bit of money, look at a good fixture, and play that then. Bogues X says he's got Areola / Turner. He's got 3 Newcastle, so can't get Dubravka except for -8. Sanchez, next best choice to field the full 11, but prices me out of Porro and blocks me from Colwell. Ooh, that's really tough. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but can you go from, let's say, someone to Pickford, and would that, for example, still price you out? I'm just curious. The alternative, I suppose, is that you make moves elsewhere again, but Ariel plus Turner is not ideal. Should I take a -8 for Haaland? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's worth it. -4 for Jesus to Watkins? No, absolutely not. I think I would not go Jesus to Watkins until game week 18. If you're, let's say, a Jesus owner, that upgrade from Jesus to Watkins when you have Jesus versus Liverpool versus Watkins versus, what are they playing, Sheffield United at home? That's a huge upgrade then. So if you're ever going to make that move, make it then, but don't make it now. Do you think Evan Ferguson will start? I think it's pretty likely that he'll start. I've seen one of the better Brighton predictors think that he'll start. Why not start Dubravka? I think Ariel has a better fixture, but what I'm looking at here is even if Ariel doesn't play, I've got Dubravka anyways. -4 Turner to Dubravka. Yeah, I think if you guys are worried about not having a starting goalkeeper this week, yeah, going Dubravka makes sense for a -4. Is it worth taking a hit to take out cash for Walker or Flecken? I think Walker's a little bit risky. Flecken slash Leno to Dubravka. I don't think that's worth it either. First of all, Dubravka has a bad game. I think Leno actually has a good game. So I wouldn't be worried at all. Do I reckon Bentley will start for Wolves? I don't know. I think this is the game where, because last week, right, Jose Sa was fit, but he wasn't playing. Bentley got another start. So the interesting thing will be, actually, does Bentley start again? And I can't confirm that right now. Because if Bentley starts again, I think that we can maybe generally say that the picture would have changed for, let's say, Bentley versus Sa, and Bentley suddenly becomes a budget goalkeeper. But until that happens, until basically we can kind of confirm that Sa is benched, I don't think it's worth punting on Bentley. Who are my favorite budget-ish defenders? I mean, what are we talking about here? Like really, really cheap prices? I think obviously because I actually like Everton as a team, Branthwaite is good, but the fixtures are obviously bad for Everton in isolation. So you're sort of looking at, let's say, okay, when Everton play Burnley, that sort of thing, I can play Branthwaite then, but I'm not going to play Branthwaite every week. Taylor is obviously fine just because of price, but do I have confidence in Burnley? Not really. In terms of sort of spending a bit more money, I like Livramento a lot, but I recognize obviously as a young kid, he will have to be rotated. Newcastle play a lot of games. And if anything, this might be one of those fixtures where Lewis Hall would play, because if you're trying to prioritize Livramento and his health, maybe Livramento will play, for example, in the Champions League game instead. Son and Lascelles out for Trent and Palmer. That's actually a move that I really like. I actually really like that move. Sterling or He-Chan? I'd probably prefer Sterling because He-Chan still has the issue of Asian Cup. Raya or Dubravka? I'd probably go Dubravka. DG Boy 88. Which one is priority transfer? Goalkeeper Areola / Turner. Other defenses. Yeah, so the defense you have right now is pretty weak, I have to be honest. I'd probably say other defenses, just because the way I see it, a lot of the transfer goalkeepers that you can make this week aren't great. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Other than Leno. Whereas obviously, if you, let's say, upgrade someone like Anderson or Tomiyasu, obviously, you can make a huge improvement on the team that you're fielding this week. So I'd probably do that. Something like Porro is quite nice. Porro is looking like a long-term... Yeah, absolutely, Porro is a long-term hold. I'm really, really lucky that I have Porro because, on Wildcard 8, we had Porro. But since then, Madison got injured, and now, obviously, Porro's on all these set pieces, and he's really good at them. Henry Morgan says, play Raya or Dubravka. Oh, okay, you're playing them. I'd actually probably play Raya, if I'm honest. Colwell or Porro for this week? I would start Porro. I would go Porro for sure. I mean, I don't think it's even a question for me. Everton away is a pretty bad place to go. Why do I put Colwell on the bench? I'm not expecting anything from Chelsea. Everton are, guys, I'm going to say it right here. I've been saying it this season for probably around 10 game weeks now. Everton are a very good team. Okay. Their league position, first of all, once you add those 10 points, is good. Their underlying stats are pretty amazing. So in this situation, I would not even consider that, let's say, Arsenal versus Aston Villa, because Arsenal has so much more of a better defense, versus Chelsea versus Everton is very different in terms of clean sheet odds. In fact, clean sheet odds, I think, are slightly favoring Chelsea by 1 or 2%, but I've seen some other models favor Arsenal by 1 or 2%. So at that point, it's a true 50-50 in terms of clean sheets. So you're looking at, let's say, Gabriel versus Colwell, and then asking the question, who probably has maybe something like set piece threat, those sorts of things. Fulham mids is an interesting one. I would probably go Willian or Andreas, obviously. I'd probably still go Willian because I think he's on penalties. Martinelli to Bowen or anyone for a hit. I don't think it's worth a hit. I think Martinelli is still very good. Bowen or Foden? I'd probably go Bowen for safety, Foden for upside. Quick wild card. I could have a look at that, Peter. Let's do it. Let's do a little bit of a quick wild card. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'd probably go Dubravka. I don't know if I'd be spending extra money. I'm thinking maybe obviously Sanchez, if we can afford Sanchez, but obviously, just going Pickford is totally fine, even though he has a slight injury risk. I don't think it's a long-term one. Porro's great. Tsimikas is okay. Colwell's good. I'd probably change cash. I wonder, actually, I mean, it depends on what we want to do with Son, right? Because I do think I would still go Watkins on the wild card. I don't know if I change Archer to Semenyo. Maybe I would change Archer to Semenyo. Hard to say. Could be that. Gordon, I'd probably keep. I mean, this midfield I think is very good, but the issue, of course, is whether Son plays. So let's do a Son wildcard draft, and then obviously one where he's not, ready to play or fit to play. Yeah, I'd probably keep Gabriel for the future just because he's the cheapest Arsenal player that I actually think is actually nailed. So I would probably just save the money on Gabriel. Would I go Gordon? Maybe on the wild card you'd say you have more insurance, but hard to say. I mean, I guess this obviously is begging for James, but do I really trust James, being able to actually stay on the pitch, be fit, play Sheffield United at home, considering they actually have Newcastle in the Carabao Cup? I don't know. So maybe we drop Son as well. Maybe we just upgrade James to Trent. This isn't awful as a structure, I would say. And then who can we get for 7.0? It's a tough one here. And we probably actually want Trippier as well. Sorry, I actually kind of was neglecting that fact. Maybe Tsimikas has to go. And we could go Branthwaite or something like that. I don't know, but Tsimikas also such... I mean... Because I'm thinking, do I save all the money that I have in this situation? Maybe you can actually go 3 attackers. So maybe I go Solanke. Maybe I go someone like Lo Celso McTominay as well. Someone like Lo Celso McTominay is interesting in this position. Because if you look at actually the fixtures for Spurs, the next 5 are pretty good. So Lo Celso as a punt isn't awful. I don't really mind this team structure. But can we get Trippier into it? Probably not. This is obviously 8 attackers. Realistically, Lo Celso is just a budget fodder pick. But Lo Celso is already better than Semenyo, and he's better than Archer. I quite like this team structure. So this is one that we can definitely consider. If you don't like Solanke, though, let's say we go back to Semenyo, then obviously we can upgrade potentially... I think maybe you can obviously just bin off Gabriel for a bit. Maybe you can bin off Tsimikas as well if you want. If you don't think Tsimikas is a guarantee, you can always go Branthwaite, I suppose, knowing that you'd be actually upgrading. So you can always have Trippier in the situation. So this is not a bad structure as well. On this week, you would actually bench Trippier. You would actually play Alexander-Arnold, Pedro Porro, and probably Colwill. But it's not ideal. Well, I'd probably actually, in this situation, actually still play Trippier, Trent, and Porro. So that's not too bad as well. But yeah, those are some ideas for you if you're thinking about things like that. Alrighty, so quickly going back to chat. 200 of you guys here. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you guys could like and subscribe, that would be absolutely lovely whilst you're at it. How about Trent for a bit of fun? Yeah, absolutely, Peter. All good. Yes, Fran, start Saliba or Livramento. I'd probably start Livramento, actually. Kind of like my attacking fullbacks in those situations. I don't know if Livramento will 100% start, though, because as I said, I think there's a bit of a risk, actually. He might be rested. You know what, actually, I would go Saliba in that situation. I think it's still safer. Will Son start? I think he'll start, but I can't guarantee that, guys. Garnacho or McTominay, a good punt. I think Lo Celso is probably a better punt than the two of them, just because I think United's fixtures are still pretty bad. But I think McTominay is better than Garnacho. Just because I think like McTominay's team and his position in team could stay a little bit longer. Start Akanji or White? I'd start Akanji 100%. I mean, it's Akanji versus Luton, so you take that risk, I would say. Will Areola start? Can't confirm that. Trippier's the man who needs to be rested. Poor guy. Yeah, I mean, he was awful, right? Let's be honest. First Everton. Someone's calling me Raptor in the chat. Jakob. I would just keep Allison in your case. Cash and Mbumo to Trippier and Palmer Porro. And Sterling or Guehi and Mbumo to Lascelles and Boner change. I mean, look, I would just take Mbumo out of your team. So I do like the moves Trippier and Palmer, actually. How likely is Lascelles and Son to start? I'd give Son probably 80%, and I'd give Lascelles probably 80% as well. Because maybe Lascelles a bit lower, actually, because maybe the priority is Champions League, so maybe I'd give him 60. I can't confirm, though, obviously. This is just based on my read on press conferences and just my experience sort of looking at Son. He's been injured, quote-unquote, a couple times this season with contact injuries. Palmer or Gordon, I would pick Palmer. Diaby to Saka or Cash to Porro? Cash to Porro for me. Hi, Fran. Hold Alvarez or swap for Watkins. I would easily hold Alvarez. I mean, this is Alvarez versus Luton, so swap for Watkins on Gameweek 18 if you want. Is it a bit too late for Trent? No, I don't think so, because if you think about it, right, let's say you go Trent now. When Salah leaves for AFCON, we're going to have a crazy budget in FPL. And when we have a crazy budget in FPL, we're going to be able to afford Trent. So even though Trent will be, maybe a little bit more inefficient for some of the tougher fixtures coming up, let's say the Arsenal fixture, the reality is we're going to be able to afford Trent eventually. So obviously Trent for me is good. Considering a new strategy where you hold Mbeumo and captain him every week. No, Dauber, don't do that. Just sell Mbeumo, please. I'm not even going to mess around with that. Sterling or Bowen for Game Week 18? For me, I think a bit of upside. I'd say Sterling, just fixture-wise, but Bowen I think is the safer play. Why do I have Areola instead of Dubravka? I just think the fixture is better for Areola, first of all. And if Areola doesn't play, totally fine with me. I'll just have Dubravka coming on. Udogi to Pedro Porro or Colwell? Definitely Pedro Porro. Who would be good replacements for Alvarez? I would just keep Alvarez. I mean, Totti was not overlooked in my cheat sheet. Like, let's be honest. This was one of Wolves and their first clean sheets. Like, Bentley got a clean sheet in back-to-back weeks, but he didn't even get a clean sheet in the week previous. Like, I'm not gonna say a Wolves defender is overlooked. Like, Wolves are a pretty awful defense. So I don't understand how he can possibly be overlooked. Free hit and Game Week 18. I think the plan, if I'm honest, is probably a little bit, in the mud. Unless you've got triple Man City, and that's fair enough. Best 1 week punt for a midfielder. Honestly, if you're going to wildcard next week, I would go Fernandes. I would go Bruno Fernandes for sure. Or a United pick, something like that. Or for example, a Man City player. One of those two. Remove Areola for -4. I think it's okay. If you have Areola plus Turner, I understand the logic between taking that hit. That's fair enough. Get rid of Salah, Archer, Lewis for Walker, Bowen, Watkins. I don't think that's worth it. Oh, you're wildcarding. Honestly, I don't think I would. I don't think I would. I mean, Lewis obviously isn't great. Archer's not great. Fine. Yeah, I think fair enough. Those are good picks long term in terms of Bowen, Watkins as well. Just in general, because obviously I know a lot of people might disagree slightly with Bowen. I don't think he's a green pick right now. I do think he's yellow, but Bowen is, generally speaking, obviously a very strong, stable pick. Would I sell Son or Trent for Haaland back in? I'd probably sell Son in this instance because there's a doubt that Son might play. Palmer versus Gordon? I'd pick Palmer for sure. Thank you, Yassine. What are the clean sheet odds for this week? What do you want to know in general, for example? I think the clean sheet odds between, let's say, Arsenal and Chelsea are very similar. The best odds really go to Man City, they go to Liverpool, and that's pretty much it, really, in terms of good fixtures, right? The United clean sheet is also slightly high this week, but it's still not great. Those are probably the only teams where I'd say from a clean sheet point of view, it's actually quite good. All the other teams have pretty bad clean sheet odds. For example, Tottenham, let's be honest, they're not a serious defense. We only have Pedro Porro because he's an attacker. Dubravka, very, very poor clean sheet odds. Even West Ham have poor clean sheet odds. It's not looking good for a lot of teams. Maybe Fulham actually have okay clean sheet odds as well. So this is an okay week for Fulham. Actually, sorry, one team I forgot to mention is that Brentford have really high clean sheet odds as well. Sheffield United away. Aston Villa, 98% of clean sheet. Yeah, I've never heard that in my life. Hi, Fran. I'm top 25k. Well done. You've accidentally activated a free hit. Can you give me suggestions? Okay. First of all, I would say try to find a way to get triple United. Try to find a way to get triple City. Probably get maybe one Brentford defender in there. Maybe even two Brentford defenders if you can afford it. In terms of other positions, so if we have a core, I would say also go Darwin, go Salah, and go Trent as well. And I think that's the core of your team done. So hopefully that's good enough for you. Start Livramento or Branthwaite. Look, I'd probably start Livramento. Is Bailey a good differential? I think Bailey will actually be added to the cheat sheet soon, right? But honestly, if we're talking about Bailey, I'm not going to add him to the cheat sheet when he plays versus Arsenal. The big thing with Bailey is I definitely think that he's suddenly become first choice over Diaby. That's 100% the case. But also, as we know this season, that position can flip flop. So I don't think I can confirm that he's a good differential until, let's say, he puts another good performance versus Arsenal, and then suddenly he's like basically the real first choice pick between himself and Diaby. Any Chelsea defender for upcoming fixtures? I think Cole will make sense. I think James is very risky, but I can understand it is definitely a high risk, high reward pick. But I think the risk is huge for James. So I don't like, for example, bringing on James versus Everton away. I like bringing on James versus Sheffield United at home, just because at least the guarantee is that he probably plays that game. Well, actually, Diaby and Bailey play different positions. I disagree with this, right? Because it really depends on whether Tielemans comes in. So, I mean, if you were using that logic, like, are you saying Tielemans is the second striker? No, right? Because structurally, the team just changes. It's not like, I'm not saying that, and you can still see, for example, like, let's say, like Tielemans, Zaniolo, like those four players are sort of in a rotation with each other because Aston Villa can't afford to play different positions with different players. But for the most part, like Bailey still occupies a similar role to what Diaby does. Like no one right now is really playing second striker if Bailey starts, right? So you just have to admit that they are almost a like for like. Whereas obviously in the past, we were previously only seeing a like-for-like change between Zaniolo and Bailey, and obviously Bailey was playing a different sort of position. Will Cash start? I don't think so. Just a reminder, Everton on form. I mean, I never said... I mean, what do you even talk about Everton on form? Everton have amazing underlying stats, which is why actually I think they should be higher up in the league table, not even, counting the 10-point deficit. And that's what I mean though, Noah. Like you can still see, for example, that let's say Diaby can still be a like for like sub with Bailey, and obviously the system will change. But the point is that I think when Bailey starts, it's actually pretty unlikely that Diaby starts as well. So yeah, that's my only point. Ward-Prowse to Garnacho to free up funds. I personally would rather go McTominay. But I think if you really want to free up funds, that's fine. What do you think of Nunez to Isaac? I think it makes no sense. I'm actually really happy that I own Nunez this week. Is Turner to Sanchez a good move long term? Yes. Bench one of Maguire, Shar, Gabriel, Porro. I would probably bench Shar. Thanks, Fran. So is it worth taking -4 to transfer out Lascelles? I mean, I would just start Lascelles, and just hope for the best. I don't think there's a need to sort of take that out. FPL Mishi says, you're on wildcard 20. Who's the best for Mbeumo replacement? I mean, if you're actually on wildcard 20, maybe you can just go Hwang, right? Hwang still has an amazing game, But Palmer, for example, is still a good pick in future weeks. So I would say Palmer is a good week, next week. Good transfer next week. But Hwang actually has a really good game versus Nottingham Forest at home. So start Zinchenko or Saliba. I think if you have Zinchenko, let's say if you have double Arsenal defense and one of them is Zinchenko, I would definitely start Zinchenko. Someone's asking whether they should start João Pedro. I actually have seen that apparently he's going to be benched, but I still think I would probably start him because the fixture is so good. Yeah, so I would agree to that. Sterling plus Colwell or Hwang / Gordon plus Porro. I would actually probably go Gordon plus Porro. Who's a good differential captain this week? Bruno Fernandes probably versus Bournemouth. Pickford or Sanchez after next game week? I'd probably go Sanchez. You're starting off with Sheffield United at home. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Play one of Guehi, Cash, Taylor. Maybe Taylor Guehi. I don't know if Cash starts, so that's really unhelpful basically. So I think Cash is probably going to be benched. Hi, Fran. You have 2 free transfers. Why am I keeping Cash? Any future prospect for him? To be honest, I had other priority transfers, right? Because I had Mbeumo, I had to transfer him out. So suddenly, I don't have the free transfers to suddenly take Cash out of my team. I can maybe look if Cash, for example, plays for Sheffield United at home on Gameweek 18. I'm over the absolute moon. So what I might do, right, is first of all, we know in Gameweek 17, that Aston Villa still have a pretty mediocre fixture. But I also think that what I could do is easily just wait until game week 18 and then assess whether Cash will play. Now, if I think for whatever reason that James will actually play next week for Sheffield United at home, which I think is also a little bit unlikely regarding Reece James, because he could easily be benched so that he's kind of protected and then played in the EFL Cup game. But depending on how, let's say, Pochettino is prioritizing the league versus the Cup, I do think there's a punt for James, Cash to James to be done on 17. So those are my options, have Cash for 18, where I'm begging and hoping that he plays for Sheffield at home, or just, for example, swap up Cash with James. Szoboszlai to Bowen. I don't think moving out of Szoboszlai makes too much sense now. I'd probably keep him for this fixture, and then you can move away from Szoboszlai after this week. Pedro Porro, or actually, I would actually go, for example, I'd go Bowen later, actually. Anyways. Isaac, Gordon, Sterling start too. I'd start Sterling. I'd start Isaac probably. Can I play Adingra over Palmer or Gordon? No, I think I think you could play Adingra over Gordon, and I'd play Palmer. What's the best Darwin replacement minus Watkins? I think Solanke, if we're being honest. Best Son replacement? I mean, Foden, Sterling types if you sort of want to maximize your cash. If you want to save up money, obviously, I think Palmer's still the best go-to sort of transfer this week. Thoughts on benching Alvarez or Watkins? I don't think Alvarez benching makes any sense. He's versus Luton, so I would definitely start Alvarez. Pickford or Johnson to start? I would start Pickford. Start Saliba or Shaw? I would start Saliba. Bowen or Darwin for Gameweek 16? I'd probably go Darwin. Gordon -4? I don't think Gordon's worth a -4. You want to take out your defense. Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking at your defense, I would probably take out either Henry or Guehi. But honestly, also look at your defense. You can just play Pedro Porro, Gabriel Simicas, and you don't need to necessarily take out extra players. Porro versus Colwell, easily Porro for me. You agree on playing Alvarez? Yep, I agree with that. With Tielemans instead of Diaby, we have a lot more midfield control, as you saw in the City game. I actually agree with you, Noah, 100%. Structurally, it actually helps you, for example, like keep possession and to sort of overwhelm the midfield and have that kind of control that you say. I like it. And this is something that I mentioned multiple weeks ago, because if you remember, obviously, I owned Diaby probably around 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I already said that as soon as Tielemans found his way into the team, I knew that Diaby, was going to go out of my team, and I'm very happy that I pretty much sold Diaby right before his first benching, so that was cool. And also his first sort of 45-minute substitution, which is obviously, that's never a good look for a player, when you're thinking about how nailed they are, how important they are for the team. If you're ever 45-minute subbed, I think sometimes, unless there's a unique exceptional circumstance, it's a bad thing, and we can apply the same thing with cash. Pinnock or me from Brentford, I'd probably just go Pinnock and save yourself the money. I know me has had 1 goal, 1 assist in one of the games recently, but I think Pinnock is equally capable of that. Foden or Alvarez, I'd probably take Alvarez, just because I think there's a lot more flexibility in the midfield. Best Mbeumo replacement, I think Palmer still. And Mbeumo to Bowen for -4 is not worth it for me. Real question is, though, should John McGinn... John McGinn's been playing great, but Ballon d'Or... what's actually cool is 2 years ago, I think I was asked to create like a starting 11 for teams outside of the top 6. And at the time, I had John McGinn in my sort of centre-mid position when he was still playing for Villa, obviously, alongside Grealish at the time. And a lot of people questioning that pick. Nice to see that that's working out well. Hi, Fran. Foden or Saka? I would go Saka. It's just safer in that situation. Your daily dose of reality, says Palmer or Gordon. I would still go Palmer, Zinchenko or Trippier or Tsimikas. Are you talking about starting Zinchenko, Trippier or Tsimikas? I would start Tsimikas. Janksta, hope you're doing well. Actually, good shout. Might actually quickly check the... Oh, no one's actually really talked in the private chat, which is totally fair. Free hit advice. Triple United, triple City, triple Liverpool. And then I'll obviously maybe fill out your team with some Brentford players. Watkins or Son? Are we talking long term? I'd probably still go Watkins because I think there's a bit more safety with obviously the Son concern. You already have Palmer. Who to bring in instead of Mbeumo? I'd probably bring in Gordon. I think Gordon was once again one of the safer picks. Pedro Porro -4 for Guehi. I think that's fine. David, since I have Palmer, what do you think about Mbeumo Sterling? I think that's fine. But obviously, just know that there's a little bit of a risk to Sterling. Otherwise, I think he's a very good pick. Bernard says, who should I take out? Henry or Guehi for Livramento Colwell, please. I would probably take out Henry, right? Because at least Guehi's a playing player and Henry's out for long term. Darwin Núñez versus Crystal Palace. I would go Darwin Núñez. Hi, Fran. Allison, Martinelli, Diaby out. Flecken, Foden. I don't like Flecken in, first of all, because double game week 20 is very, very unlikely to happen. Foden and Bowen in, I can sort of back. But honestly, that -4 doesn't really make too much sense to me. I think Allison actually is probably going to be back very soon. Martinelli is good. The only transfer I would probably make is to take Diaby out of my team. Saka in for a -4 for Diaby. I don't think that makes sense. Even though I think Diaby's benched, you can probably just play one of your bench players this week ahead of Diaby and then actually make the Saka move when he doesn't play Aston Villa away from home. What do you think of Hwang captaincy? I'm definitely not doing it. That's what I'm going to say. Thoughts on Pascal Gross? I think he probably, yeah, I mean, he's been on the cheat sheet before, but he was benched recently as well. He obviously did 1 goal, 1 assist in the previous match. Do I think he's a good pick, generally speaking? Yes, I do. Am I concerned about, let's say, I think the issue with Gross is that sometimes he plays fullback, sometimes he plays attacking positions, and so that's not very good for Gross. Yo, Kevin, top 10k, that's awesome. Congrats so far. Colwell or Robinson? I think Robinson obviously has the 4 yellow card risk, but I'd probably still go Robinson. Because I'm still actually, I own Colwell, but I'm not that confident in Colwell as a pick. Any news on Tsimikas starting? I think he'll start just because he wasn't played in the midweek game. Dallo for -4 for Anderson. I don't think it makes sense because, after Dallo plays Bournemouth at home, the fixtures for United are terrible. So that -4 isn't great. Love from India, love from where I am in London as well. Thoughts on Pinnock versus me? I would just save money and go Pinnock, personally. Start Cash or sell for -4. I would actually, okay, fine. If you actually have to start Cash, I would sell him for a -4. You'd love to get Bailey in FPL win. Yeah, look, Bailey's also very cheap as well, if we're being honest, right? So that's fair enough. You're 5 million in rank. Is it possible to get up to 100k? I think it's possible. Kwanzaa starts. Hold on, sorry, please. Let me check some Liverpool leaks, guys, because I think that's huge news. Yeah, apparently Kwanzaa is starting. Wow, okay. Okay. Very, very weird. Interesting. Good evening. Did we get any leaks? Apparently Kwanzaa starts. That's what I've heard. That is a rumor, but I can't, fully 100% confirm it. Start Colwell or Cash? Colwell. Doku news. I think Doku's still out, unfortunately. But let me quickly check if we have any potential leaks. I think Doku's still out. So Grealish, Haaland, Foden, Silva, Alvarez, Rodri, Stones, Ake, Diaz, Akanji is probably the most likely lineup. So that means Walker's benched. But I don't know. That's what one of the top Man City predictors predicted. I think that Stones versus Walker is probably that big conundrum. Can you please repeat the Hwang rumor? There's no Hwang rumor. There's no Hwang rumor at all. He's just going to the Asian Cup. That's all. Tsimikas playing or not? I think Tsimikas will play. Yeah. 4 minutes left. Make your moves. Sujan, you haven't wildcarded yet. Do we need to do before Game Week 20? Actually, you can do it on Game Week 20 instead, Sujan. Your first wildcard can be Game Week 20. Any Man City leaks? I've given you a predicted lineup, but I'm not sure about, let's say, Stones versus Walker. It depends on, obviously, whether Stones is fit. Tsimikas is definitely playing. What makes you think Kwanzaa's out? Kwanzaa's just a center back, guys. Any leak news on Liverpool? I think Kwanzaa's in. I don't know if Tsimikas is starting 100%, but I think he's going to start. City to make it winless. Okay, I'm gonna, I think it's easy, obviously, to do it, but I'm gonna bet a City win. Shock. Who to start out of Mikolenko, Shar, Guehi? I'd probably start. Honestly, I'd start Mikolenko. Don't you think? Of course, I think Foden could play well. But the thing is, if you think about it like this in FPL, right? If you think that you suddenly have the luxury to make transfers every single week, that's just not a reality, right? The reality in FPL is, look at Mbumo's injury. You could have another player injured next week, and suddenly you can't go from Foden to Saka again. So obviously, I think if I had to pick between the two of them, obviously I would pick Foden for this week, if I was free hitting. But if I'm thinking about long-term transfers, I definitely think Saka is better than Foden. Play Lascelles. Yeah, I'd probably still play Lascelles unless you have someone better. You only did one transfer, and that Mbuma to Gordon. Save the other transfer. It makes sense. Nuclear Atoms. Nice to see you're rolling some transfers. Nuclear Atoms. I'm seeing a little bit of change in the approach. That's nice. Is Darwin captainable? Yeah, if you have massive, massive things down under, yeah, go for it. Areola to Sanchez instead of Dubravka. Will I be free hitting an 18? No, I will not. Areola to Sanchez instead of Dubravka. The main reason why I'm not free hitting 18 is because Double Game Week 20 still has not been announced, and I think actually it's dead. And in terms of Mbumo, because he's injured, that's one less player who's going to ride my bench in Game Week 18. So, yeah. The guy who got the highest points last game, he got 4 Fulham players. It just means that he hasn't made a transfer this season, because if you own 4 players of any team, you're actually blocked from transferring out anyone else other than your 4 players. You need to reduce into 3 players. So it just basically means that he's probably had that team for I don't know how many game weeks, and obviously the one chance that Fulham absolutely blow apart a team, he's popped off. Hey, would you play Diaby or Souček this week? I'd probably play Souček because I don't think Diaby starts. Is Alisson starting? Can't confirm that. I haven't actually gotten any news in terms of Liverpool leaks on that. So time to make your transfers, guys, no matter what. All the best. Should have quickly have a look at my team once again. So my 150-50 decision is going to be Gabriel Colwill. It is what it is, though. I think I'm happy with that. 30 seconds left to make your moves, guys, roughly. I'm probably just going to back Gabriel here, guys, over Colwill. I just think slightly better goal threat, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. I don't have much confidence, whatsoever, really, in some of these picks. So I think, as I said, Gabriel Colwill is a pure 50-50. I've gone Ariel over Dubravka just simply because I think Ariel has a better fixture, but he's probably going to miss out based on the news that we have. So we'll just have to see what happens. And hopefully Colwill doesn't bite me too hard. But Everton have looked incredible as of late as well. So, yeah. What's my world ranking? 31,000 right now. So I can scroll up here. You can have a look at my rank. 3398, as it says in terms of my live rank. You heard Tsimikas is on the bench. Is he? I haven't heard the same either. Let me have a look. I mean, it's already too late in terms of the deadline. Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen any news in terms of Tsimikas, guys. So hopefully Tsimikas starts. I'd really be bummed out if he doesn't. But yeah. I'm actually going to an FPL meetup today, so that will be fun. Alrighty, guys. Simcast isn't shy to being in a new sub. Yeah, but the thing is, I'm just really struggling to believe. I watched, for example, Liverpool versus Sheffield United. I don't think Gomez was brilliant. I mean, he made some pretty big mistakes. Probably created Sheffield United's best chance of the game. Tsimikas has, for the most part, been relatively good. I'd be struggling to think that Tsimikas would not, for example, start. Anish, thank you so much for joining as a member. Welcome to Captain. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Feel free to obviously check, the YouTube catalog. There is one private video. It's a private video on how I play FPL, like a little bit of a deep dive into that. And otherwise, of course, if you want to contact me on Discord or Twitter on a one-to-one basis, just let me know. And thanks again. Time over. How about a meetup vlog? I could do that one time actually, but I don't have I don't have recording equipment that I actually am able to, for example, carry around with me. Because I don't actually have like a camera, for example, so I don't have vlogging equipment. I just have a webcam that's decently high quality, I suppose. But yeah. FPL Eric says, good luck this game week. Saw this before. Alisson, Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, Trent, Endo, Gravin, Szoboszlai, Salah, Darwin Diaz. Okay, I appreciate that, Eric. I would actually it'd be interesting to see Diaz starting 3 games in a row. That's huge for Diaz. What is my day job? I'm an accountant, basically, a qualified accountant, or a chartered accountant, rather. I hope double-digit haul for all Darwin holders. Absolutely, my friend. I hope Watkins blanks again. I hope Watkins waits for me on Gameweek 18 and he doesn't suddenly destroy me again. But yeah, that's sort of the landscape of my team right now. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm probably going to log off here. As I said, have to prepare for that sort of meetup. Thank you, Eric, for sending the lineup. All the best. Captain Kudish from Diamond. Some pretty big bowlers in the chat. Don't you dare say that. I mean, Aston Villa, if Aston Villa can continue to win games, right, without Watkins scoring, I'm happy with that, Noah. So if you're happy to take that deal with me, how long until we sell Alvarez? I think you can sell Alvarez on Gameweek 18 if you want, or you can just keep him just in general for the long term. I think he's still a good pick. He's been a bit unfortunate, if I'm honest, as well. Do I think Adingra starts? I can't confirm that because he's played too many games of football. So I would tend to think that Adingra might drop out. Henry, member for 21 months. Probably one of the most loyalist members in the channel. Thank you so much, Henry. Really appreciate the support as always. Always dropping debuts on the videos, so thank you. Appreciate you, Henry. Darwin, today's the day. I hope so. I hope so. We say that every week, but we never know. Are you excited for the Real Betis game, Henry? When should I sell Darwin for Watkins? Game week 18, just like I am, for example. If you want to see it like that. Al-Malid, absolutely. I would love to keep Darwin for the Man United game. I mean, last Man United game, you know, when Liverpool were playing at Anfield, you know, in that 7-0, like, oh my God, Darwin was absolutely cooking that game as well. That game was sad, you know, not owning a single Liverpool player for that fixture. Darwin brace, Salah brace, Gakpo brace, and I don't know what Salah got in terms of assists. Like, he got crazy assists as well, didn't he? Al-Malid, absolutely. Yeah. Brother, you're rocking Darwin, Watkins, and Holland. Fair enough. That's a good structure. Yeah, I'm a Real Madrid fan. But I would say I'm a pretty unbiased football fan as well. You know, I'm not like some sort of... Like, I'm definitely a diehard Real Madrid fan. If I watch Real Madrid play, obviously, I'm probably very annoying to sit next to. But I'd say I'm pretty unbiased. Like, I don't go on football Twitter, and I don't, you know, go and talk down other clubs and things like that. Yeah, I think it might be. Is it a good time slot for you, Nuclear Atoms? Yeah, that's fair enough. Because obviously, a lot of Spanish League games are very, very late at night. Like, a lot of Spanish League games are like 9 p.m. In Premier League, I don't really support a team in the Premier League, actually. So I used to be a big fan of Jose Mourinho's Chelsea team. Because obviously, when I was growing up, they were a very, very dominant team. And I liked the style of play. I liked players like Drogba and things like that. But yeah. Stay away from football Twitter, mate. Football Twitter is a little bit of a cesspool, to say the least. Definitely filled with people who are, you know, below the drinking age, I would say, and who are a little bit controversial. Salah missing a penalty this game. Mate, you know, when Bruno Fernandes missed the penalty, I was absolutely ecstatic because, you know, those United players did nothing for me. Even Dalot, for example, if you guys remember, I went Dalot in Game Week 7, and I dropped him on my wild card, and since then, Dalot had like 39 points in 5 games or 6 games. And then obviously Trent, I mean, like, he's broken my heart as well. Because obviously, I think my wildcard 8 has done well in terms of it's sort of brought me back to a decent rank. But if I'm honest, guys, the people who actually went no Haaland, you know, and went Salah only as a structure, they've definitely won, in my opinion. You know, owning Trent, for example, those 40 points that Trent has got in the last 4 weeks has been insane. Like, I've seen some of my friends go to top 1k in the world, you know, top 10k just by owning Trent. And it's not even, for example, like, oh, who's better? Is it Haaland or Salah? It's just the fact that on a 1 structure, right, you were able to afford Trent. And Trent, obviously, he's overperformed massively, and that's fine. That's what life is. That's what FPL is. And sometimes we try our best to predict, you know, and Trent's overperformed, and that's totally fine, you know. But I can't go into Trent right now, and it wouldn't make sense to suddenly take, you know, -4s to go into Trent, is the way I kind of see it. So yeah, question from the chat is, now you've got 1 free transfer for Game Week 17, should I go from Henry to Livramento? Yeah, I actually think that's a very, very good move, Henry to Livramento. And you got Guehi too. As I said, I'd keep Guehi because obviously he's a playing player. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Jackson and his, you know, form of motivation, but I mean, he didn't look very motivated last week, I'll tell you that, versus Man United. Was still pretty poor overall. Being horrendously biased towards your own team is half the fun, Will Wood. I disagree. I mean, I've seen people make some pretty calamitous... Like, you know what's funny is actually, I tend to think that like, some people who do really well in FPL some seasons, it usually comes down to certain players within their club do well. For example, like FPL Guns last season, like Arsenal were doing really well, and probably against people's expectations, and he's an Arsenal fan. But also, I mean, look, this season, like, I think he's like 2 mil or 3 mil, so... And Arsenal have actually still been doing well, but I think, you know, if you've been backing, for example, some of the Arsenal attackers, it hasn't worked out. There was one season when an Everton fan won just because he hated Liverpool, and Liverpool were like stinking it up. There was one season where I believe, for example, the Spurs were not particularly good, but actually Conte managed to squeeze, at the absolute life out of both Son and Kane. And so I think Jamie Pickett, for example, is a Spurs fan, benefited a lot from owning Kane and Son. But I think in terms of consistency, like finding a consistent approach, like being a fan probably does slightly hamper the prospects, right? Because sometimes, for example, like if I can give an example, sometimes I'm reading the chats, and some people are reading are saying things like, "Oh, I'm a Chelsea fan and I have no confidence in Chelsea," and I have to tell them, Chelsea actually have a good fixture run, so do think about investing into those Chelsea picks. It's not a problem. Like I know you guys have absolutely stunk it up versus Newcastle and Man United, but I'd still definitely be happy to own Chelsea players, heading towards the good fixture run, right? So sometimes that sort of thing, I think it just depends. Like your fan perspective could be very, very different. I don't know what it would be like if Real Madrid were, I think it's nice, obviously, that Real Madrid's probably one of those teams where I can easily just keep 3 Real Madrid players all season if I was playing something similar. But let's say if I owned, for example, like I don't know, if I was suddenly, what's a good example? Maybe like let's say if I was it's a good team that performed well last year but has actually dropped off a little bit. Yeah, maybe even United, for example. I don't know. Like if you're a diehard United and you're overestimating what United can bring to the table, like who knows? Fernandes actually, I think, still remains a fantastic FPL pick, for example. But I don't know if you're, let's say, suddenly backing Onana as well. I mean, he's been doing pretty good actually, as a goalkeeper. But I don't know actually. Sometimes it's helpful, I suppose, to be a fan. Sometimes it's not. But as I said, I think playing unbiasedly makes the most sense. Because sometimes, yeah, people make some weird decisions, like not only just related to the club, but obviously like for the clubs that they don't like. So I remember instances where United fans are telling me, they don't want to captain a Liverpool player versus United. And sometimes, if you've been watching United all season long, I'm very, very happy to captain a Liverpool pick versus United, because I think United stink. So for example, when that Anfield game comes around and Liverpool play Man United, I'm going to be licking my lips, right? Hoping that Tsimikas plays as well. But I think Darwin and Salah will play in that fixture, and I will be absolutely over the moon. Another FPL content creator I follow as well has Trent, Trippier, Salah, Saka, Haaland, Darwin, her team. That's a pretty strong team, yeah. Nothing wrong with that. I think the only question I would ask is, how is she able to afford all of these picks? I don't even understand. Wait, she owns Trent, Trippier, Salah, Saka, Haaland, Darwin. Like, how? How's that even possible? I'm gonna try that with my own team first. Trent and Trippier. Okay, of course the game is updating, but yeah, I don't believe that. Maybe if it's a 1-me, I'm like sure. No Son and 4.3 midfielder. I mean, like I think if you do no Son, double 4 mil goalkeeper, Lascelles 4.5 mid. But I mean, Willian and Palmer, that still sounds too expensive. I'm gonna get a calculator out. What the hell? Okay, so like Darwin's like what? 7.6. Trent is like 8. I mean, what rank is this content creator? I'm actually curious. Any route to Son, to Saka? What do you mean? Sorry. You've got Gordon, Palmer, Saka, Salah, Bowen. I'd probably go out of Bowen personally to go to Son, but it's up to you. I mean, also Son has to go to be going to Asian Cup soon as well, so maybe you actually don't go to Son, but it depends. I would go out of Bowen personally. I want to keep Saka. I don't think Doku will start. I think Doku seems to be injured or something. Odegaard for Son. I don't think Odegaard to Son makes sense. What do you mean, like Odegaard to Son or like Odegaard for Son? She doesn't have Son and Watkins, but Darwin is close to Watkins. I mean, what I don't like about that team structure though is if you think about it, like Darwin has to sort of be Watkins on Gameweek 18, right? So how can you really? I mean, that structure will sort of break apart, in my opinion. Like as soon as you want to go to Watkins, Bowen is great for 2 weeks. She just did that Trent move this week. Oh, Yelena, okay. See, that makes sense. If you make the Trent move this week, okay, because you went out of Sun. You went out of Sun. Yeah. Look, I have to be honest. I'd say taking a bit more of an analytical approach to the game. I think I do like having a deeper bench, but that team looks incredibly strong. I know it's without Son, without Watkins, and probably she's actually used all the money in her bank. Because actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if I for example didn't own Son, obviously I could do the same thing. That team looks very good on paper. But I would say one of the issues that team probably runs with is, first of all, for example, like this is a bad Trippier fixture, right? So do you actually want to play Trippier? Second of all, does that team have room to go to Watkins on Gameweek 18? And who knows? Like Son can still be fantastic all the way heading towards Asian Cup, and we could be evaluating that team differently. But ultimately, what it has great players, and this season has presented us an opportunity to own a lot of great players at one time. So nothing really wrong with that team. It's very strong. Probably has a weaker bench than I'd usually like, because I don't like weak benches. As you guys can see as well, I mean, think about the injuries that we've had. If I had a weak bench, I'd be in deep trouble, right? How is it possible to own both Trent and Trippier? I find it weird to own both Trent and Trippier whilst owning Salah plus Haaland, but that's fair enough if you can do that. Thoughts / future plans. Goalkeepers. Fionki Bobaz says. It could be. I think Alvarez to Solanke is actually really, really nice as an option. But I don't know if you've got 2 free transfers. So the only thing I'd say about your team is maybe you could move into a 3-5-2 again. But I'm just trying to think who would you actually go for? Tough. You could actually upgrade, in theory, someone to Trippier is nice, I think. For example, like let's say if you go Alvarez out to Solanke and then you actually suddenly move someone to Trippier, I think that could help you out quite a bit. Lascelles had a dead leg, but I don't have any news in terms of whether he's ready to start. Do you guys want to wait here until the Liverpool lineups are out? Or what do you guys want to do? Because what I can do, right, is... yeah, I mean, I've got 15 minutes. I can be here. I will definitely do a Gameweek 20 wildcard video, and I'll definitely do a Gameweek 17 wildcard video as well, if that helps you guys. I'm actually flying to Hong Kong in one day, actually. So what does dead leg even mean? I mean, if you watch the Newcastle game in the previous game, he basically sort of had a contact injury, and I think he basically felt nothing in his leg. Sometimes, for example, you might have, for example, exerted your leg in a certain direction, and suddenly you can barely feel your leg, so you have like no adrenaline in your leg at all, and that sometimes has a huge impact, right? So basically, in those situations, you'd like to think that a football player will just need a few days of rest. But obviously, the issue is that it's such a tight turnaround for Newcastle. Who knows if they're going to risk Lascelles, because the Champions League game is so important as well. So it might be the case that Kraft, who came in obviously for Lascelles, will come in, and Lascelles will get a little bit more rest. Minus the Areola rotation, what's the best rotation goalkeeper? Dubravka. I haven't thought too much about this, but I mean, I'm tempted to think that because Dubravka is so strong and stable by himself, why can't we just save some money and just go Pickford? I don't think it's great rotation per se, but if you just own a Newcastle goalkeeper, you're probably going to be quite happy for the remainder of the season. Is LKF back open, Henry, actually? Because the last time I went, it was closed. So if you can give me an update there. Defense, Guehi, Henry, Simicas, Gabriel, Pedro Porro, Gordon Palmer, Bowen. Any route to Son? I mean, it has to be through Bowen. Unfortunately, though, your team value is pretty poor. So I would say you probably can't afford Son, if I'm honest. You could break apart Salah. You could drop Salah into Son on Gameweek 18, potentially. But does it make sense? I don't think so. So I think you probably have to pass up on Son. Because I'm thinking, like, Bernard, for your team, like, you want to go Darwin to Watkins soon, right? And that's going to require you to spend money again. So you can't suddenly just put Son into that team, I would like to think. Fionki says his bench is very weak, though. Probably looking at Lamptey / Simcast James next week. Yeah, but okay, let's be honest, right? Like Reece James, like let's be serious here. Reece James, um, the man who hasn't started 3 games of football in a row for 2 years. Do you think he's actually adding to your bench? All right, take care, Henry. That team value must be quite a lot. Dubravka would in cash, and Kabori. I mean, fair enough. Kabori is obviously not worth anything, isn't he? Pinnock is a 4.5 as well. I think it makes sense because obviously she doesn't have any of those kind of like 5.x picks or even, but cash is actually still pretty expensive. I'd say 4.8. Um, I can't watch the game Binod, sorry mate, because I've got to go. Like I've got to go to a meetup where I'm going to be watching the Liverpool game. Are you in an FPL content creator league? Not really, but FPL Gameweek.com has a content creator made a league. I had Reece James at the start, ruined me, wasted me transfers at the start, never again. I had Reece James as well. I had Shaw as well. Both got injured. Then Chilwell got injured as well. Yeah, it's pretty annoying. You're planning to go out of Saka to Son and Bowen to Hee-Chan. Oh, Stones. Yeah, I didn't have Stones because I saw the leak that he was injured apparently. Cheers, Nuclear Ados. I'll see you around in a bit. All right, let's give it the old 11 minutes. Wait for the Liverpool lineup. You just woke up. What did you miss? Well, the deadline presumably, but otherwise, not much. Excuse me. Kwanzaa from Liverpool is apparently starting, and I think the Liverpool lineup is probably as we expect. It's going to be Tsimikas, Virgil, Alisson. I don't know if Alisson starts actually. I might be overstepping, but let's predict the Liverpool lineup. Apparently, if Kwanzaa starts, so I guess Kwanzaa, Virgil, Tsimikas, Trent, Alisson. Let's just predict that Alisson comes back. I kind of hope that would happen because that would sort of ruin the Kelleher owners. God, I'm so pathetic. And then in midfield, I think McAllister is actually still struggling. So probably Gravenberch, maybe Endo, Szoboszlai, and then Salah, Darwin. Yeah, apparently people said Diaz would start, so I'd agree with that, but I don't know. Diaz starting 3 games in a row is a little bit suspicious, potentially. I also think Gakpo had a pretty bad game as well, so who knows? That could be the reason. Excuse me. Upcoming game week, you're thinking to transfer Mitchell or Pinnock to Porro to Pau Torres. I think the Pau Torres move can wait for game week 18. The Mitchell move can definitely go towards Porro next week. Yeah, I agree with that. Cheat sheet video series are too good. Thank you, Binon. Appreciate that. Fardian says Alvarez, Holland, Archer, Son, Bowen, Salah, Gordon, Saka. Any changes to make? I mean, let's see what happens with the Botman news because you might have to move Botman out soon. And I think, as Binod says, or sorry, Music Mafia says, I think Pau Torres could be a good transfer in the future. Otherwise, I think your team's actually relatively good. Maybe Anderson can actually go out first. Sorry, I just noticed, but I think Anderson can definitely go. I think Bowen potentially can be downgraded as well when you're thinking like, let's say Bowen could be a Palmer. Bowen can easily be Palmer versus Sheffield United, so why not go that? Don't want Keller to play and want Watkins to flop. It's like you got beef my whole team. Hey man, that's how FPL is, isn't it? Though you've got beef with everyone else. Has there been any good Liverpool leaks? Let me have a look. Oh, okay. So it's Tsimikas, Alisson, Nunez starts. Man, that's massive, guys. I'm over the moon. What can I say? What can I say? We have the Liverpool leak. Ooh, Alisson's back. Liverpool already leaked it. Damn. Goodbye, Kelleher. Yeah. Game's the game. Yeah. You want Watkins to blank. Mate, absolutely, I do too. So yeah, I want Watkins to blank. Absolutely. I'm so sorry I said that to all the Watkins owners out there who've been absolutely destroying me since that 11-point haul. Konate on the bench, Kelleher out. It is looking good, my friends. Let me I think Focal shared the lineup as well. He just sort of retweeted the Cop HQ, but the Cop HQ is very, very consistent source. I need Darwin to do well. Who to follow on Twitter for those kind of news? There's many different accounts, so it's kind of tough. Like I don't have one. I think the Cop HQ for pool is good. Or Spy on Cop. This is my 11 that missed the deadline. Ariola, Dubravka on bench. Cash, Simicast, Saliba, Palmer, Salah, Son, Saka, Dingra, Holland, Darwin. I mean, it looks pretty good. Harry. It's good that your chat isn't set to subscriber mode, only like most FPL channels. Enjoying my stream. I appreciate that, Wayne. Obviously, if I'm being honest, I can understand why some people do subscriber mode, because there are some circumstances where some people just have too many chat messages flowing. And obviously, I'm not at that level where I can't suddenly read chat. Like, I'm at that level where I could probably say I read 75 or 80% of the chat messages. And I mean, who knows what I have to do in the future, but part of the point of the stream, I suppose, is just to engage with the chat the whole time around, and I like doing that. So, given the sort of flow of the chat right now, I think no reason for me to be on subscriber mode. Where did I get Liverpool news? I've put it in the chat. Binod. Brighton defender. Estupiñán actually might be back in 2 weeks' time. And that was something I heard 4 days ago. Son back in training. Yeah, I think Son is fine, by the way. As I said, I think it's a contact injury, but who knows? I mean, Son could also, for example, be subbed off a bit early. We never know. Manifesting an Allison tummy ache. Mate, you're absolutely... I'm going to be honest right here, guys. It might offend some people, but anyone who's actually... some of the people that leak news, right, and then suddenly change 15 minutes, suddenly change their stance on a player because they said, oh, there was late news, blah, 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 had a stomach ache, blah, 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 was sick. Those people, let's be honest, just got the news wrong. Things like that are very, very, very unlikely to happen. And I remember recently as well, even with the Man City leak, when the Man City leakers got it wrong. If you remember, one of the Man City leakers said that Doku was going to start, right? But suddenly Grealish actually... Grealish was supposed to start, but suddenly Doku had started over him. What I actually heard from some people who are in the know with Man City was that actually, Doku was never in the lineup for that game, and Grealish was always going to start. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Don't always trust the leakers. If they have a good history, maybe place a bit more faith into them, but don't place absolute faith into them. I think for Man City news, this FPL is the best for Man City news. I think he's the absolute GOAT. Very, very good predictions. Why has Salah become so boring? I mean, only a few weeks ago, he was getting these penalties and getting 16 pointers and things like that. So I think things move very quickly in FPL. There's no need to overreact. And obviously, Salah was horrible for Sheffield United. And let's be honest, he is getting a little bit old as well. But is he suddenly washed up, in the middle of the season? I don't believe it. So we'll see. Darwin and Simicast starting is absolutely huge. That's huge for our team. I'm so excited. So unreasonably excited as well. But I'm happy about that. Now we can wait 4 minutes for the actual official news to be out. Yeah, I captained Haaland. Yeah, that's correct. Captain the old Viking. Hopefully the City come back. De Bruyne back will surely skyrocket Haaland's point. I think, I won't say skyrocket, but I think, 15-20% increase in points. I'll take that. And Haaland's back soon. So, yeah, we just have to get around Gameweek 18 and the blank there. And then we'll be in a very good position very shortly, my friends. Oh, Olise is actually benched, apparently. So that Crystal Palace team is poor. That is a poor lineup. Would you get De Bruyne when he comes back? I think so, right? Because you have to think all the players going towards Asian Cup and AFCON, they're going to leave. We're going to have a lot of money in the bank, so we can easily go De Bruyne then. Do I think Newcastle will sign a new keeping in January? I don't think so. Right now, I don't think so. Let's wait and see, right? We can reassess, because obviously Dubravka's only had one game. He's played well so far. Technically, he's played 2 games. And I don't think he's made any key mistakes. He seems okay in terms of being able to pass out of the back so far. Nothing crazily poor. Pope isn't someone who was amazing at passing out of the back, but he still did reasonably well. I think Dubravka will probably stay. And if you think about it, bringing in someone like De Gea will bring in a lot of wages. And what's the point of bringing De Gea for 3 months and suddenly, let's say, Pope comes back and what, you're going to bench De Gea and suddenly have him on ridiculous wages? I think Dubravka is probably going to do fine. But let's just see, right? If the performances get worse, then we have to reassess. Score predictions for Villa Arsenal game. Honestly, I'm thinking Villa 2-1, but who knows? I appreciate that, Bernard. That's very nice. Are you going to watch the AFCON? Yeah, I mean, just because it's football, I'll be watching as much football as possible. Probably more towards the playoff stages of the AFCON. Same with the Asian Cup as well. I probably will only watch the Asian Cup final. I don't really care about the Asian Cup. Unfortunately, obviously, my team Hong Kong, right? Because I'm a half Hong Konger, but we're awful at football, so nothing to celebrate there. What are my thoughts on Nkunku? See, that's an interesting one, right? Because Nkunku, I thought, was actually ready to join the team in Gameweek 13. Now, since then, he's not been in the team at all, and I don't think he's going to be in the lineup here for this game versus Everton. So he's clearly taking a bit of time, and obviously, I think what Chelsea have noticed as well is that they have to put the sort of physical health of the players, at an absolute forefront, ensure that these players are actually ready to play top-flight football, because look at Reece James. I mean, it's such a mess in terms of his minutes, but I can understand that because, at one point, Reece James is going to not be able to play football again. So either you try to nurse him back to full health, give him, every opportunity possible to get as fit as possible, or it's just going to be a lost cause eventually, right? Because you've been unable to sort of, in a sense, resuscitate a player who's been unable to play 3 games of starting football a row in 2 years. And he's very, very young. But, a few years down the line, then suddenly you become like a Diaby from Arsenal or something like that. When Nkunku comes in, who does he replace? I think that Jackson is out. Yeah, I agree. Because in the preseason, we saw 2 different things, right? We saw Nkunku plus Jackson sometimes, and we also saw 45-minute halves where Nkunku was playing sole striker. So my personal opinion is that because Nkunku can also play in the wing positions, but Sterling has actually been incredible, I think that Sterling, Palmer, and Nkunku is probably going to be your sort of trident for the Chelsea team. But another thing that we can interestingly see is if Pochettino can find a way where suddenly he picks 2 out of 3 between, let's say, Gallagher, Enzo, and Caicedo, and he finds a balance, which I think is very hard. You looked at, for example, Enzo plus Caicedo versus Man United. That was horrible football. Lack of ball retention, losing the ball in transition all the time versus Man United. I mean, they created some great chances, but only just because that game was like a game of pinball, but United was huge. I don't think Enzo's a flop. I think he is a world-class player, but I do think he's not showing it. His role, for example, for Chelsea is not great. We'll see what happens. I think Caicedo's played a lot lately, by the way. But I also think Chelsea's a work in progress, right? These are all young players. They need to find time to sort of understand what exactly the coach wants and how the coach sort of envisions how best they can play. So that will be something to look at. But going back to the Chelsea thing, there could easily be a Chelsea attacking 4. There could easily be a Chelsea attacking 3. And we can see Nkunku play either in the 10 position or, in my opinion, as a centre forward. I think it's less likely that he takes the minutes away from some of the wingers. Because as I said, in the preseason, Sterling didn't look like anything. But Sterling probably has been one of their better players in the attack. So struggling to see, for example, either Sterling or Palmer losing out on their minutes. So in that case, maybe you continue to see Palmer, playing as a 10. Maybe you can actually see Palmer playing as a 10 and then Nkunku as a wing player and then Sterling right wing. That could be an option as well. Will Ronaldo be the top scorer for the end of the season? You mean like what? Worldwide top scorer? Sorry guys, we totally missed the Liverpool lineup. What is the Liverpool lineup, guys? The Liverpool lineup is Alisson, Trent, Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, Endo, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Diaz, Salah, and Nunez. Yeah, so exactly what we sort of thought earlier. And that's very good news for us. Owning Darwin, owning Simicast, hoping for the best, and we'll see what happens, obviously. Let the good times roll. All right, guys. So that's it for me for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. 100 of you guys still here, so really appreciate you guys, giving the time to actually watch the stream. I really appreciate the support. If you guys could like and subscribe in general, that would be very helpful. Do you reckon I did a mistake by captaining João Pedro instead of Haaland? Honestly, I think maybe that's a small mistake if we're being honest. I definitely would have captained Haaland easily. But Allison is back, which is nice. Obviously, that's going to help, hopefully, my Simicast move. Merry Christmas to you as well, Luis. And take care. I'll see you guys very, very shortly, and hope you guys have some lovely green arrows.